Dear friends, welcome to this 11th webinar of CineConf powered by IMAX in association with Theatre World and Network 208. Today we shall discuss about the physical and social distancing agenda at cinemas when the cinemas reopen. So hope to see the cinemas will reopen soon, and we have some dates for the open theatres, something like drive-ins. So for this we have Ms. Asha Patania, AVP Housekeeping PVR Cinemas, Mr. Amish Mishra, Head of Operations at Cinepolis India, Mr. Arijit Datta, Managing Director at Priya Entertainments, Kolkata, Mr. Jaiswin T. Jayan, Jaisirtha Film Exhibitors at Kerala, Mr. Ramkumar Namalwar, Founder and CEO of Ticket New. I'm Raghav from Theatre World hosting this webinar, and finally we have Mr. Henry Newell, Director Business Development, Cinema APAC Region, Harman Professional Singapore, who will be moderating this session. For taking this conversation forward, I would request Mr. Henry to take it over. Over to you, Henry, sir.
Thank you, Raghav. I would like to thank Theatre World and IMAX for organizing the series of seminars to create awareness amongst the theatrical exhibition community on the implications and challenges faced during this unprecedented time of the pandemic. To support our discussions, we would like to discuss on three crucial topics. First one, on the safety measures and protocols, such as temperature checks, QR code scanning, mask, social distancing, and sanitizing, and so on. Second would be on the contact tracing. How can we help government agencies to trace the cluster of patrons seated in number 5, number 15? And lastly, sustaining the movie-going experience to create a safe environment, patrons to enjoy the show and their popcorn and samosas. We have a panel of 5 members from different segments of the theatrical community to share their views and thoughts of cinema readiness. They will be sharing their valuable suggestions, measures, and protocols in place on creating a safe environment and an enjoyable movie-going experience to our movie lovers. A warm welcome to all the panel members and to our guest joining the session. Without further ado, let us dive into the discussions. My first question I would like to throw to the panel: what are your thoughts on major issues that we may encounter when cinemas reopen? Please take a minute or so, and I would like everyone to respond to this question. Asha, maybe you can start first, Asha.
Yeah. Hi, Henry. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to go first. And thank you all, IMAX and Theatre World, for having this panel here to discuss the fears and the assurances that the industry can put forward through this platform. So answering to your question, what kind of challenges the industry feels? I feel, Henry, the biggest challenge is to gain the customer confidence, because like we all feel, even after the 4th lockdown, the government is still very skeptical opening the theaters and the cinemas. And this is actually enhancing the fear in the mind of movie lovers and the cinema goers to say the cinemas are not opening because they could become a hub of the pandemic. Which is not correct at all, with all the efforts and the efforts the people are taking from the industry. The biggest fear is this, that the delay, the longer it takes, the fear is only getting bigger, and it's not helping the industry in any which way forward. I think that is the biggest issue right now, which I feel.
Good. Yeah. Amit?
Thank you, Henry, and thank you, Theatre World and IMAX, for presenting this wonderful platform. I completely agree with Asha. What she has mentioned has covered maximum concerns that we see as a business. But for me, the important aspect would be bringing back the confidence for the customer to come back and spend his time with his family, friends, and his loved ones back to the cinema. I believe that would be the most important challenge that as an industry we see forward, and as a brand we are working together to improve it.
Arijit, would you like to add a few words, Arijit?
Yes, why not? Yes, without a doubt, the confidence of the audience is vital. Plus, we need to ensure the supply of films also, because that is going to be paramount. We require the right films to encourage the people inside the auditorium. If you're going to run repeat films, you're not expecting people inside. So we really don't know whether they would be comfortable inside, or are they comfortable inside, or they're not coming because of the film. So we require a couple of tentpole films coming in fast to encourage that footfalls. And after all, cinema going to a location, doing something is a matter of habit. If people come in once or twice because of a few tentpole films, I think we don't have too much to worry about as of now. Initial stages, we will have a little bit of an uphill task, but I think big screens are perfect for entertainment without any doubt whatsoever.
Right. Jason?
Good evening, Henry. Thank you, Raghav. Thank you, IMAX, and thank you, CineConf, for this invitation. I would like to add that the important thing is that we should win the patron's confidence, that we should educate him and make him understand that he's exposed to the same amount of risks. His safety is not compromised inside the theater. How much he's exposed to the risks in the open public or in a bus or in the metros, it's the same amount of the risk, same amount of the safety procedures is observed inside a theater also. So I think we should gain the confidence of the patrons.
Ram, would you like to add?
Thank you, Noel, for the opportunity. Raghav, thank you, and network, and also the IMAX. I agree with the panelist. Definitely there is we have to build some kind of a confidence measures. Government putting us in the last is something which is definitely a problem for all of us. But I think it's but at least in one way it is good that we have some more time to prepare ourselves. And what we have seen outside of India is definitely helping us. The content is going to be the king. A movie like Tenet, which came in, is getting almost full shows in countries like Ireland, so where we sell tickets. So I think. Are we losing any confidence in the industry? No, I mean we still really hold a great confidence in the industry, and I think pandemic has really taught us a lot of lessons which we have to take it forward and run really strong. Yeah.
Good thoughts shared. My second question to Asha: what are the important precautions taken to keep the cinemas, concession stands, and lobby spaces clean and hygienic?
Henry, thank you for this question. And I think this is very important that we discuss it in a platform like this, because we have been doing a lot of stuff past these few months during the lockdown. And it is very important that everybody who's present here should know that how much efforts the theater industry is taking in building the customer confidence. The confidence. So starting from the box office to the entire journey. So before we could talk about our patrons, I would like to also highlight that how cinemas have to be made safe for the employees and the staff who would be coming to work, and further make it safer for the patrons who would come ultimately to watch the movies. So the basic guidelines that any other business has to follow would be followed at the cinemas as well. So there is something that the Multiplex Association of India has taken out in the form of guidelines and SOP, which all cinema owners and theaters would be required to follow. And there have been some enhanced processes which have been added by individual theaters and cinema owners. So starting from the temperature checks to checking onto the Arogya Setu, to checking onto the entry point, the locker room precautions, and the physical distancing that needs to be maintained for the employees. Adding to it, we would also be going for employee health checkup. So once the employees feel safe, the people who would be serving, once they are taken care of, then the patrons would also be taken care of. From the box office, the ticketless process have been added. There are QR codes. There are bookings which you can do digitally. Once you enter the premises, you would find sanitizer stands everywhere. There would be physical distance markers. There would be collaterals and LED displaying the safety messages. You could simply go and show your ticket on the mobile phone and you are good to go. As you enter inside, if at all you want to eat something, you could actually pre-order. There's an option on your mobile, on your online booking, or you could follow the physical distance stickers and maintain distance and still order. The food is going to be pre-packaged. The food has to be safe. It would be served in sterilized packaging. All the disposable items would be utilized. Once you are going inside the Audi, there would be staggered seating. Unknown groups would not be sitting together. So the cinemas, all high touch points would be disinfected. They would be cleaned and sanitized at every point of the patron that a patron would get exposed to. The washroom facilities would be 50% only operational, so the distances would be maintained. The cinema goers have absolutely no fear. They should have no fear that if they come to cinemas with their families, they would contract any kind of infection or their health will be compromised. There's so much that has gone inside planning this in terms of contactless, in terms of clean, hygienic, and cutting-edge sanitation that every cinema theater is committed to, that I know of, because that's how the MAI, the Multiplex Association of India, the guidelines have given us. So that should actually, build a lot of confidence to customers to say cinemas are going to be one of the safest
Good
places.
thoughts, Asha. You shared quite a bit
Yes.
on the safety measures that we intend to take at the cinemas. Basically giving patrons a safety environment. They are safe when they come out to the cinemas. Good. What are the measures that would be taken when patrons visit the cinemas to ensure a seamless flow from entry to exit? Jaishwan, could you please address this question?
We can definitely set a standard procedure for the patrons. That would be the first from the box office to have a contactless ticketing. I know it is not that highly practical with all the districts, but definitely at multiplex and large screens, contactless ticketing, temperature check, then a social distancing inside the theaters with where there is a gap between every seat, possibly giving a sanitizer at the entry and the exit point, and preferably the staffs who are of elder age wear a PPE kit near the gate, near the entrance. These all things can be definitely thought of, and definitely you can put in people who are some kind of advisors or like an ambassador who stands there to help maintaining the social distancing, who is always there around the lobby and the theater, who make sure there is social distancing between the patrons.
Good, thank you. Anujit, what are the guidelines to be implemented on reducing the queue and crowding at the cinema lobby, ticketing area, and restroom spaces?
Like I had said last time also, you can have SOPs, you can have rules and regulations, you can have everything in place. At the end of the day, it's the audience or the people which has to respect it, understand that they need to respect it for themselves and for others. But there again, we don't see too much of that responsibility sense, nor have we ever noticed it in the past. Nor will we even see it now on the roads or whether in the bus or on the autos. So we just hope for the best. We have these SOPs in place. Our job is to put it in place. Our job is try and ensure and educate the people coming in and the public that you should be doing this. But after that, Like when people are going out of the hall, how do you ensure seamless outflow if everyone gets up with their seats at the same time and crowd the passage on the way out? You can't do it. Let's be fair. So we can try our best. We have to put the things in place and hope for the best.
Good. Yeah. As Jason mentioned, safety ambassador, employing safety ambassadors on the lobby spaces, that is a real good thought. And thereby that could really help to reduce queuing and crowding. Just they go
here again. Henry, you're talking about upmarket urban cinemas. How many upmarket urban cinemas are there in the country? You're talking about the 4 main metros and probably another 10 major or 20 major cities. But the rest of them, not only can they not afford that ambassador, but there's no one to listen to them either. Like in the districts, like Jaswin said, it's going to be difficult to maintain a lot of things in the districts when majority, we talk in numbers, majority of the screens are in the districts. How many they are there in the city?
Right. Got you, yeah. We discussed on the safety of our patrons. Now, I would like to address, how do we ensure safety of our own staffs employed in the cinemas? Amit, could you take that question, please?
Sure, Henry. So it's always a pleasure to talk about staff. Everyone in the forum would agree that they are the backbone of any team. And now we see the most important time that we educate them about the COVID. And if we have to talk about the precautions, so we have utilized this lockdown period for a complete basic training and certification of our team members in terms of the protocols that we have implemented for COVID, also on the processes that we already had. Another best part that as a global brand, we have our internal learnings from other countries which are operational alongside COVID. We have tried to implement those COVID protocols and educate our team in this basis, not only to the global standards. Team here has also worked on the multiple guidelines and SOPs which have come for the other industries which have opened and have worked on their training module. Now, just to highlight few, we are seeing that we are restricting the team members who are from the containment zone. As Asha already mentioned, a couple of the points, you would see that some points are repetitive in it, but still, just to highlight, Arogya Setu is a mandatory stuff for any cinema team member. We are also testing a particular platform on Arogya Setu where the team information can be collected to the cinema manager and he would have a complete detail on it. It's in our testing phase. Symptoms and temperature check at the cinema entrance. So it is not restricted to only the customer, but also to the cinepolite that we call it here in Cinepolis. Issuing a fresh PPE kit. So irrespective of whatever he's wearing outside, as soon as he walks in, he gets a fresh PPE kit to start his shift. Sanitizing his bag, his belongings before he enters the property. Asking him to carry his uniform in a very packed manner so that it is not contaminated. Getting the cine space, we call our locker area, getting that sanitized on a frequent basis. Ensuring that the symptoms and body temperatures are monitored in each shift. Ensuring that the roostering is done in a way that it is not crowded. The breaks are allotted in a way that it is not crowding in our staff area. And for sure, ensuring that the availability of sanitizers at each pause, face shield, counter shields are available for the cinepolite or a team member, we call it, to be ready to face any customer. End of the day, we should know that the team member should feel confident to work. And once he is confident, he will be more confident to follow the protocol and ensure that the customer in front of him is protected and entertained. So that's, I can give you a comment on the team training that we have conducted at Cinepolis.
Good. Asha, would you like to add your thoughts to it?
Yes, Henry. So actually, I wanted to also add to what Arijit said, that the bigger cities or the multiplexes may be able to have those ambassadors and all those things. But I would say, Arijit, the trends show that the rural India or the smaller cities seem to have more respect when it comes to our COVID protocols that we see. the graph of cities, urban cities seems to be not coming in control. And I'm very hopeful that if we were to somehow tell the protocol or the system or SOP of following in the local languages, the patrons would be more than happy to comply. People actually want to come out, and they would be very happy to see some kind of efforts made for their safety and their family's safety. And they would be happy to comply if some kind of a message could go before the show ends to say, for your safety, for your family's safety, if people could, go a little slowly and maintain the distance. Coming back to your question and adding to what Amit said, yes, keeping the safety of employees is going to be paramount for any theater owner and for the cinema chain. So, other than the fact that no employee from any containment zone would be allowed to work, we would also make sure that the team is trained very well, and the protocol is not restricted to the cinema. They should be trained to the fact that before they come, what are the precautions they need to see and follow, and during the duty hours, what they need to follow, and when they leave the duty hours. The precaution does not end or begin at the cinema. It is part of our lives now. We cannot restrict these discussions, and employees are not unique to cinemas. Employees everywhere need to follow a certain protocol for their safety and for the patron safety. So the education and training should not be restricted to their time at the cinema. It has to become part of their life. The way they are supposed to follow the hands washing, not touching their eyes, nose, ears, and changing their clothes, having a full bath when they go back home, and not coming in contact and following the physical distancing even after duty hours. So that once that has been told and it is lived in, I think we should not see any problems whatsoever with our safety of our employees also.
Very good thought process, Asha. Jason, would you like to add your thoughts as well?
I think the panelists spoke well about it. That's it. Nothing more to add on that.
Fine. Good. Okay. Now my next question. We did speak a little bit about the high-touch surfaces. I would like to ask Amit, what are the protocols recommended for high-touch surfaces in the cinema? For example, the doorknobs, handles, the faucets in the restrooms, and also 3D glasses, and so on. What are the protocols recommended? Yeah.
So the recommended is that it gets frequently sanitized and frequently cleaned. I think that's the very clear message for any high touch points that we highlight for a customer. And it is applicable to the doorknobs. We have gone far of keeping a dedicated resource who can ensure that the doors are open before an entry or an interval for a customer, easy movement. The handrails are cleaned and sanitized before the start of the show, during the interval, so that the customer who's touching is not infecting anybody else. We are going ahead with a treatment which will last for a longer period of time, and it is protective to the viruses which will affect. So you can say that if you have to summarize it, it will be more of a cleaning and sanitation with a defined frequency and increased frequency at each touch point that you have spoken about.
Good. So basically, we want to limit the contacts, the lobby space. Ram, a question to you. How could we handle F&B ordering?
Little bit just to add, a few more points on, what Amit was mentioning, in terms of touch points. The way we have, we have done it is like, let's say the first show could use, the assumption is, we're going to have 30% could be the agreed occupancy by the government. So for the first 30% could be used in some particular seats in the Audi, and the same seats would not be used in the next show. So we can bring in from a software perspective, we can bring in elements which can bring in these factors where the touch points can be avoided from on a seats itself actually. So when somebody schedules a movie, he'll set let's say seat group 1, which will be people will be able to book, and then seat group 2 would be available for the next session. So that way the software can take care of minimizing the touch point from a seat perspective. In terms of the food and beverage, the QR based the food ordering, like for example, when you book a ticket, you would be able to buy food and beverage online itself, and either you can collect it when you enter into Audi, or based on the seating arrangements, somebody could also deliver without establishing any contacts. So these two are possible. And what we have also done, we have seen scenarios where somebody can just sitting inside the auditorium, you can use a mobile app and order the food. So all these mechanisms would help in terms of a contactless ordering. And of course, we encourage to use not the cash is something which we should not use. Maybe use a credit card or a debit card, or like a kind of a Paytm wallet. So that's how we look at it. Yeah.
Let's be straight. There cannot be anything contactless. Whether someone is giving the food to you, someone is packing the food, someone is using the credit card, someone is putting in the PIN number. We can try our best, but that's what it is.
Basically, we are reducing the contacts. That is what we intend to achieve. Reduce the contacts.
Arjit, I mean, we are not saying no contact. We are saying contactless. So.
Then I think it should be less contact, not contactless. Something like on a lighter mode, something like loose characters moving around, or characters loosely moving around. They're two different things.
So, on an F&B perspective, what are the safety protocols followed by the staff in regards to packaging and distribution of F&B? Asha, would you like to take that question, please?
Sure, Henry. There's so much which has been done in all the aspects for the patron. This is also going to be one of the very critical ones for us also. Because F&B does form a very substantial part of the revenue, and we cannot say totally that we would like to open cinemas without having the F&B open. So a lot of safety protocols have been taken because PVR is also part of the Global Cinema Federation, and we have borrowed from the various countries which have opened and have allowed F&B services to work on. And other than that, we are also looking at what other industries are doing who are into food and beverage and restaurants, hotels, how they are following the protocols, because food is very integral part of any hotel stay also. So what has been done that there would be, whenever any kind of raw material comes, the secondary packing is told to be avoided. Whatever would come would get disinfected before it is allowed to be entered inside the cinema premises. There is a separate area earmarked where the material would be kept for few hours, even after the disinfection treatment which can be done. Once that period is taken care of, like a food quarantine or a material quarantine, you could call it, and disinfected, then it is brought inside, it is stored in the right temperature, the earlier protocols of food safety, and then whatever is made out of it, or the food which is pre-packaged, would be actually stored in a UV cabinet for sterilization. So answering to what Arijit is saying, yes, there's a lot of technology available. Not everybody would be able to implement it in one go. But yes, there is enough one can do to keep the contactless on. So people who would be handling those would have the right PPE. They would be wearing those disposable gloves. It would be pre-booked as much as possible. It would be handled very little. It would, in case the cutlery is given, it is of disposable nature, and it would be discarded in a separate bin. so that when the patrons leave behind these kind of material and used, it needs to be also disposed of right. People who would be behind the counters would be behind a plexi shield. There would be a physical barrier between the patron and the employee. Also, between two employees, they would be wearing something like the mask and the gloves are there, but if the distance is not so high possible, in that case, they would also be given a visor to wear, a face shield, that is, people easily understand that word. So there would be a lot of precautions for the staff and also for the patron. Billing would be, of course, ticketless wherever it is possible. So digital, NFC, e-wallets would be encouraged. QR codes would be displayed at every possible corner. You could just take the menu from the QR code, book your food, and collect it from one point, maintaining the physical distance. So all that process has been mapped and would be executed as soon as the cinemas are allowed to open.
Right.
We've only discussed burning of funds. We do hope adequate ticket sales will cover that. We are only talking about, all this is going to entail serious expenses, not only in the form of equipments, in the form of including manpower. Here, let's say the original thought was reduce manpower at least, because now you don't require that much because you're having 25-30% seats. But hearing all this and knowing all this, I think our manpower is going to increase. Fortunately,
I would just simply say, let's not call it an expense, we'll call it an investment for the safety of our employees and our patrons. That's what they want right now. If we continue to see it as an expense, it will be very, very painful for all of us here.
Exactly.
It's an investment in the safety of our patrons and employees. Let's see it like that.
That is what I'm saying. It's the urban large centers which may probably be able to spend this.
Right.
What about the smaller centers, and which is the major centers? If you actually talk in numbers, the major centers, can they afford this? That's something which we need to look at. That's why we've been saying government needs to come forward and at least put one hand forward for a shake, that at least we are there to help you. We are there over so many months you've closed. You have to do all this, because the government is giving the SOPs. We are there to save you. We are trying to support you. Unfortunately, that has not come from the state or the center.
I understand, Arijit. I understand your point. And again, safety comes first, and safety is of utmost importance for everyone's life. Yeah. So, on the same perspective, Amit, what are your thoughts on the F&B packaging and distribution at Cinepolis?
Yes, Henry. So I think delivery of food is a new normal. You all must have heard about how the delivery giant has been expressing himself, saying that how many orders they have delivered in last lockdown, like exceeding 5 crores, if I talk about a specific brand. So delivery is the new normal, and it will continue. You can't imagine a movie experience without a freshly popped popcorn or a cola. So we have focused on our delivery segment as well inside the auditorium, and just to highlight, from beginning we already had an edge that all the products that we prepared were 100% in-house at Cinepolis. We have limited our menu so that we have very limited menu to offer, and more time and more dedication on the packaging front. We have shifted our packaging to a closed concept. Even the popcorn tub will have a lid now. We would be addressing to all the guidelines which FSSAI has put across for the restaurants which are operating currently for the deliveries and takeaways. Not only that, now you don't have to go to the concession to place an order. You can just simply scan the QR code anywhere in the cinema, whether you are in the lobby or in the auditorium. The screen itself will have a QR code, and as soon as you scan it, you get your menu available. You just have to put your show details, just choose whether you want to pick up or you want to get a delivery directly on your seat, choose your favorite order and place your order. That's ekdam hassle-free. If I have to call it in a very simple way, it's hassle-free. And then the order comes to a dedicated station. This dedicated station is only dedicated for the ordering through the application that I spoke about, the QR code, the food is prepared and packed and delivered with a dedicated resource, so that in that entire journey of your product from a QR code to a popcorn, it doesn't get in connect with any other individual rather than the person who's designated there, who's trained there, who's being certified there to prepare and make it ready for you.
Right, right. Jaishwan, would you like to add your thoughts on the plans that you would like to implement at your cinemas?
Henry, I would call this is the most challenging part now in this COVID-19 situation. The F&B is the most complicated and challenging situation. Maybe what we are talking about or what inputs we have given is hardly the 10 or 15%, 10% of the screens in India. Maybe looking at the 90% of the screens in India are more than 500 or 600 seats theater, large theaters where hardly they have this online F&B service. Maybe the major cities will have, all the districts, none of the districts have they have this F&B service through online. So right from starting from the pantry to the selling point, we are wide open to compromises. It's a fact. There is no eyewash. We are compromised there. There is a high risk. So I think in larger theaters, the first thing to be done in the districts is you open more counters. There is a time constraint in district theaters because the intervals or the breaks are for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and you have a larger screen. Look at 30% of 1,000 seated theater is 300 people. It is in a multiplex, it will be less 50 people you can manage. So definitely you should have more counters and you should definitely have people to maintain the social distancing. It's very difficult. That is the most challenging part inside the theater would be the F&B sector because there's an online reservation, online supply of food is hardly in 5 or 10% of the screen. And I think it is mandatorily you ask the staffs to wear the gloves, mask, sanitize the hand regularly, religiously wash their hand. Maybe that is all we can instruct, but it's wide open to the compromises. We have to accept that truth.
You're right. Yeah. So those are the practical difficulties that we may have to face. Yeah, that's right. Jason, I have one other question for you. What are your thoughts on mandatory mask wearing policy? What do you think about it? Yeah. Should the patrons wear them while they watch the show?
Definitely. There's no question about it. The World Health Organization, the India government, everyone, the three mantra on COVID-19 protocol is that is, one is hand sanitization, one is mask and social distancing. There is no compromise on it because in a 30, even you have 30% occupancy, you don't know who's sitting next to you, whether he's a COVID positive or whether he's negative. So mask is mandatory. Maybe I know it is inconvenient for a patron to wear the mask and sit in the AC and watch the movie, maybe if he's an elderly person, but definitely there is no compromise on it. Mask is a mandatory thing. I don't think we should compromise on that thing because it's a mandatory guideline from the government.
Sure. Ram, what do you think about it, Ram?
Yeah, I agree with Jaswin. It's definitely it's going to be inconvenience. Even when you watch a 3D movie, like wearing a 3D glass for the whole show is always a problem. But people like me, where I already have one glass and top of it another glass, is always a problem. But do I have an option now? No, I think I agree. We have to go with the mask wearing. But I think there are various options of the masks which are coming in, which are really closer to your face, or there are some masks which are like a bubble types, which can withstand a little bit better. So there are options available. I think. We should definitely and strictly implement the mask wearing. No two ways about it. Yeah.
Got it. Yeah. Asha, your thoughts, Asha?
Henry, I have to completely agree with the other panelists to say.
Right.
In fact, we have actually prepared specifically patron protection kit also. If somebody was to lose their mask or have it compromised, sometimes the loops come off. or something happens, the cinemas, we have provision for patron protective kits also. They are available to the point if you want a safe seat cover also is made available to the patron. So mask is the bare minimum we expect. If one is not wearing, the other patrons may not feel so secure. So I think for the safety of selves and for the safety of others, this is a min that is expected and people should respect this. Certainly.
Good. Got it. Yeah. How about Amit? Would you implement that at Cinepolis cinemas?
So Henry, that's a new normal. I'm sure it's a new normal in Singapore, same as it is in India, that you have to wear a mask. It's no nonsense issue as of now for the government. It is mandatory.
Right. Got it. Yeah, that's right. Okay. Good. Thank you. And I have a question for what are the grounds that you anticipate on the maximum number of patrons to attend a screening section? I would like to hear your thoughts.
I think you need to repeat that. You went cut.
Yes.
My question is,
and question is to the whole thing you have to repeat again.
Right. What are the government regulations, recommendations on the maximum number of patrons to attend a screening session? Do we have any guidelines on that?
Who was this question to?
I would like to ask everyone. Ram, if you have any thoughts, if you know anything on the guidelines of the government, please feel free to share.
Sure. From the Indian government side, I think we have not yet heard what is the regulations are. But I think I can talk about outside of India. Majority of the countries, they have gone with something like a 30% occupancy norm, but we don't know. But again, and I think that is definitely debatable whether can we run the cinemas with the 30% occupancy. It's definitely a challenge. But I think countries like South Africa or UAE or they all follow a 30% occupancy, but we have to really see the Indian government's regulations. Yeah,
I think that more than 30% we only get on weekends and for new films. So the rest of the week we are fine. Just the weekends, which is probably going to be under question. That's all.
Right.
Not a problem.
Asha, do you know of any guidelines from the government on the maximum occupancy that would be allowed during this pandemic crisis?
I was actually saying the Indian government is yet to decide it for us.
Right.
However, I do feel if they wanted some help, they could look around what's happening outside. US opened in mid-August, and they have allowed with one empty seat between groups. If a group comes, a common set of people who sit next to each other, and unrelated people, there would be a gap of one seat. Australia is saying 2 seats. UAE is saying, okay, they could be reduced to 50%. UK is working on 30%. China, again, working on 30%. Some people are saying 50% in South Korea, France, Sri Lanka. So I think what government and Multiplex Association of India can come together and agree to a number which is also viable from the business perspective. There is no point if you put a restriction on the seating that the businesses don't make money. It would be very, very difficult from the business perspective. So I personally feel that leaving one seat between two unrelated groups should be all right, and patrons should also feel confident about it. That's my personal opinion, completely.
That's right. Right. Amit, do you have anything to add, Amit?
Yes, sure, Henry. I believe whatever number comes from the central government, we might have a state-wise differentiator, as we have seen in the unlock 1 to 4. So having said that, globally, the markets where we are operational, it also ranges, say between 30% to 50%. And again, even in countries, it completely depends upon the provinces and states how they are managing or how they are sharing the guidelines. So even in India, I honestly, I believe that it will again go back to the state government. And in fact, we have seen some examples where the local municipal corporation also took a decision to shut down the malls. Even the central government had approved it. So it's quite a very difficult question to answer for now. It hardly matters what I feel or what we feel in the forum. It will be completely dependent on the local bodies and the central government how they come up with the guidelines.
Sure. I would like to share what Singapore is practicing as per the recommendations of the government. It's 50 seats, 50 patrons allowed for every screening session. And what they do during the seating, the alternate rows has to be left vacant. That should not be occupied. And when they cluster a maximum of 3 amongst the family and friends. Otherwise, they distribute it. So that is what is being practiced in Singapore cinemas. Good. Okay,
right, and if you can just allow me to add,
sure.
On the back end, we are ready with our own software, which can be adapted as per the guidelines, and it can be altered cinema-wise. So that's how we have prepared ourselves, so that irrespective of the norms, it doesn't take much to tweak our system.
Right. Good. So Ram, on the ticketing perspective, to facilitate government agencies on contact tracing, what are the SOPs in place?
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Henry. Again, the last, I would say, 3-4 years, we have been using a OTP-based ticketing confirmation. So every customer, who's booking tickets, these are all verified phone numbers. So it's in that way, we would be able to, in terms of contact tracing, we would be able to give you the, the number which was used for booking, and the agencies could trace the individuals. That is one from an online booking perspective. And second, in terms of people who are walking into a cinema, our software gives you when they buy tickets, their phone numbers we get those phone numbers and it is recorded, and the tickets are sent to the phone. So that way we make it sure that they give another number and they collect another ticket. So it's everything is on a cell phone. So that way people walking into a cinema as well as people booking online, we would be able to track those particular users. And the only question left there is, what if, I booked for my friend and, I booked for my wife, so I didn't. So, of course, those possibilities are always there. But I think that is something which we need to look at it. And, of course, from a seating perspective, we would be able to give exactly, where this particular individual sat, and, so all that are possible. But I'm sure, Arjit has some kind of, doubts on.
We are talking about the 10%.
So,
that's the biggest problem. So we need to find somehow an SOP has to be found out which is doable for all. Let's say, I'm just giving you something very simple. Tickets to enter. Tickets to enter, I'm not talking about whether it's by net or whether it's by mobile or whether it's by hand. The simple SOP of tickets to enter a cinema, that is something simple whichever way you do it, you require a ticket to enter. Now, we require a set of SOPs being thought of, which is practical, which is doable for more.
Yeah.
Someone right. Which is doable for more. Something's happening.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
I got your point, Arijit. You're right. Okay. I would like to wrap up with my final question. We know there are safety measures in place, social distancing, temperature checks, QR scanners, and so forth. Patrons are going to experience a culture shock at the cinemas. We need to ease our patrons into this new norm of cinema going experience whilst ensuring a safe and a premium experience to all of them. So, to wrap up, could you add your final thoughts to it? Okay, let me start with Ram. You're on the screen. You please go ahead.
I think for some reason we have been made to open last. So I think that's something which we from a Tamil Nadu perspective, the things all opened only from first. So I think the next 1 month would give an experience in terms of how this whole thing is going on, and maybe these would give us an experience to make our cinemas better, and from a technology perspective we'll do our best to support it and make it happen. And also to just answer Mr. Arjit, we have always been a very big player in terms of the technology for single screen cinemas or the neighborhood cinemas. So in terms of implementing a ticketless or any options, we have solutions which are available and affordable for single screen cinemas. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Ram.
Asha, would you? But Henry, 1 minute. Aware, but still, most of the district cinemas does not have the infrastructure of maintaining the server in an air-conditioned room. They do not have the manpower which can handle that computer. So, see, there are a lot of logistical things at the ground level which we have to think of. You might have a friendly system in place, but the districts, all of them cannot. They just cannot. That's the problem. Right, yeah. Our only situation in this is we always knew a house full drew more people. House full always drew more audiences saying this picture is good. That is something which we are going to miss, because every time you are going into the cinema, the people are going to come out thinking, Khali hall mein baitha tha. Now that's one problem which we actually going to face seriously. And that's a psychological problem.
Got you, Arjit. Asha, would you like to add your final thoughts, please?
Yes, Henry. I feel the changes are going to be cumbersome both for the staff as well as the customers. But also people will start placing a lot of premium on the safety measures that the cinemas are going to be taken. And this is going to be the same times when security and baggage screening used to be a very initially a problem for all of us, but sooner and slowly and gradually all of us got used to those kind of screenings, the DFMDs and HHMDs. So this would also, I think, will become part of our lives. And like they say, this pandemic, this too should also pass with time.
You're right. Yeah. Amit, would you like to add on your final thoughts on this culture shock to the patrons?
Trust me, it won't be a cultural shock, as Ram already mentioned that we are the last one to start. People have experienced it. People won't have seen sanitizers and masks for in their life, but they have seen enough sanitizer or alcohol in their life in last 4.5 months. So it won't be a complete cultural shock. And for us, it's the same. The protocols that we have set for a Muzaffarpur cinema to a Mumbai cinema would remain the same. It will be easier for a customer walking into a Cinepolis location and having similar kind of protocol across. I believe the customer will also adjust. They will also be ready to spend time and watch their favorite movie along with their best popcorn in the city.
Good. Thank you very much. So, thank you, panelists. I'm sure this panel discussion will help to gain the confidence of our patrons when they return to the cinemas. Now over to Raghav for Q&A sessions.
Yeah, thank you, Henry, sir. So let us take some questions from the Q&A. Mr. Sachin Jain is asking, for employees, will there be any testing protocol with regards to COVID-19? Amit, you can take up this.
Sure. Thank you, Raghav. And thank you, Sachin, for asking this question. I think it's a very valid question that immediately comes to anyone's mind. Honestly, the current testing pattern is such that if you have to get tested for a COVID, you need a prescription. So for now, that's how the testing is happening in India. But given the fact the brands, I'm sure the other brands and even in Cinepolis, we are prepared. If it is a mandatory, we'll sure implement it. But having said that, we have very strict and SOP guidelines set up for the health and regular checkup, which is as per the FSSAI norms that are in place. Specific to COVID, I've already said it completely depends upon the guideline. For now, it is only on prescription basis, which is not applicable.
Thank you, Amit. Question is from Mr. Santosh Patnaik. This is to Mr. Ram. How do you see online penetration post cinema opening?
Yeah, okay. Thanks, Santosh, for the question. Yeah, as we know, online booking would enable a contactless ticketing and all that. So definitely, we believe there will be a big surge in terms of online booking. Probably there will be cinemas where we believe they would only encourage online booking, and they might not even open counters. So I think that's how I look at with the current scenario.
Okay, and next question also from Santosh. This is to Mr. Datta. Since you said there is not much content for exhibition in theaters, when do you see the content coming back?
See, it's more of a chicken and egg story. It's only when we open, run a few weeks, people watch it, okay, theaters have opened, will the announcing of the dates coming. So that's one of the problems for the exhibitors today, because the next few weeks of them being open, they're not going to have product. So running pictures during this period is what is going to be a real strain for everyone. Some less, some more. I suggest, I think at least 4 to 5 weeks will have to be open before we get proper products being announced. If it's in September, in Bengal, probably the pujas, you may see a few small Bengali films releasing. There are proper announcements till now for Diwali. But again, it will all depend upon when the government allows us to open. But there needs to be that gap period of trial and error, gap period of people watching what's happening and then accordingly going forward. So that's something which is, we are dependent upon the date, let's put it that way.
All right. So I think we are addressed all the queries now. Is there some conclusion somebody can tell about this health and hygiene protocols, something for a conclusion for the cinema owners?
Yeah, I think before they conclude, I just have one point, maybe on the content, maybe we bring in some kind of a Rajinikanth festival, to cinemas. I'm sure, we'll have better crowd, so we need some festival coming in. And
so I think of South India, I think nationally, please. Now we have a Rajinikanth festival here, we are going to be in trouble.
Absolutely. So I think that's all is required for us to bring in our great customer back to the cinemas. Yeah, I think let somebody make the conclusion. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I think that's all from the session. Thank you all the speakers for giving us your valuable time. Special thanks to all the participants. Keep visiting www.cineconf.com for more details about upcoming webinars. You can also check our previous webinars videos on the same site. This CineConf webinar is being powered by IMAX in association with Theatre World and Network 208. Thank you all again.